cord is cutting off your forehead.
That's fine.
Which is kind of annoying.
I really don't
Okay.
have Is it recording?
It's recording.
Hi. As the roles of people in society have changed and evolved with the societies that have changed and evolved, an important thing to note is that women's roles went from being one that was dictated by society to one that was chosen by each individual woman. Back in the traditional societies, women were expected to do domestic tasks such as stay home and cook and prepare food and care for children, while men were required to do more manlier tasks such as hunting and gathering and going out and doing stuff like that and providing for the family. But as society began to change and evolve, the roles began to change. For example, in the 1940s, as men went away to war and they fought overseas, women came in, stepped in, and took their the jobs in the factories, and it was dictated by society that women were in these roles of previously traditional masculine roles, but now they were performed by women. And then in the 1950s, women went back to more domestic tasks. And as each decade changed, women's roles were still dictated by society up until about 1970s or 1980s, when each woman began to be able to change her own role, to choose her own role without fear of going against society. In the 1950s, you see, the traditional 1950s housewife and family. In the 1950s, housewife was one who stayed at home and cooked and cleaned and took care of the children, and the man went to work and came home to dinner waiting on the table, and the children were always well behaved because that's what children did back then. And these were, stereotypical 1950s families, but if you weren't following these roles and if you weren't blending into the stereotype well, society was very judgmental and it was very harsh on people who didn't strictly follow these stereotypes. So you didn't see the more individualistic choices being made by each person up until about the 1980s, when it began to be more of an individual process based on what each person and each family wanted. As women began to be more career-oriented and hold more higher position jobs, men who were married to these women began to choose to stay at home more, to take care of the children and family and whatnot. And because of this, you see the evolution of the stay-at-home dad. This is obviously a comedic portrayal from what to expect when you're expecting, but the stay-at-home dad is a more common phenomenon, and it's not just something you see portrayed in movies. You have the man who stays at home, takes care of the children, does all these traditional women tasks as his wife goes to work or whatever their situation may be. This is just what you see, and it's not uncommon to see a man doing these more domestic tasks. This would have been 30 or 40 years ago. It would have been very frowned upon by society for a man to be performing these tasks. Another thing that you see is if a woman is working and the father also chooses to stay working, you see a lot of two-parent working homes in which children are required to find other forms of care during the day, such as daycare, or their nannies are hired, and other forms of daycare like that that allow the families to spend more time apart. So you see a more common surge of families that aren't always together and always with their children, which in the 1950s would have been completely frowned upon. Children didn't spend time away from their parents for more than a couple of hours, or when they were, being babysat for date night or with their grandparents or stuff like that. And as these roles in society have changed, you see a more common occurrence of families not always being being all together. And although this is new, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Society is changing and it's affecting these children in different ways, but it's not necessarily causing any harmful changes or anything like that. It's just a different way of America and its family and structure to be shaped. So as women began to find their own ways of choosing their roles and having their roles become more individualistic, it's led to a change in the shift of family dynamics and family structure, in the way that the parents take care of the children and where the children go during the day and other aspects like that. Thank you.